Hi, this is Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. I've been on the lookout for rain gear. I'm not quite happy with what I've got. I've been using the Army Gore-Tex top and bottom, and it's served me well, but I think mine's starting to age and I'm starting to just soak through. A light rain works out just great, but when I'm out in it for days and days, I get continual wet inside. So my search brought me to an oilskin watch coat. This is made by TentSmiths. I've used it a little bit so far. This is the open face version, the open front. So you actually have to clasp it around you. Originally I thought about a pullover version, but I'm glad I didn't, because this thing is hot. This thing has a lot of heat on it. It's good to be able to vent yourself a little bit. The one thing I don't like about it is it doesn't have a hood. So I ended up getting, a waterproof wide brim hat. This is a Filson waxed canvas hat, but it's hot. So when I wear this thing in the summer, I'm just as wet under the hat than without it. So I want something with a hood. Now earlier this year, I made a pullover canvas anorak. This is a green pepper pattern, and so I sewed all this up, modified the pattern a little bit, but it's got a nice generous hood on it. So because I have the pattern, I'm going to cut an identical hood out of factory oilskin cloth from TentSmiths, and I'm going to sew it together and then actually sew it on the watch coat. That way I'm not tied to wearing a wide brim hat. Pin the pattern together, inside out. I actually showed it before and I forgot to record the camera, so I've already got it started here before I remembered. I'm going to tilt it down and give you an over-the-shoulder view of what I'm doing. Looks like right here the hood was bunching up a little bit, so I actually pulled the stick pin out so I can stretch the fabric out a little bit more. So it was starting to bunch up here a little bit. I had to pull another pin. It doesn't look like it's as bad as I originally thought. And I'm not exactly sure if I can do a flying splice like that or not, so I'm going to cut it and backstitch and start over right where I stopped my where I start my seam. Like I said, this is not an instructional video at all. I'm sure if you're watching this with somebody who knows how to sew, or if you know how to sew, you're laughing, but I'm gonna get by with this. I'll be laughing when it's raining and I'm the only dry one around. Okay, so there's another seam. Okay, so the three-piece hood's assembled. It is inside out right now. doesn't look too bad. You know, any kind of puckers in the seam, that's going to be a spot where water can leak in. And you know, this is plenty large of a hood. You know, my hat bill's even covered right now. So the next thing I'm going to do was roll it over and give myself a hem along the edge. But I was actually looking at the factory watch skin coat, and they did a nice job making this. I would suggest using this as a starting point rather than getting the fabric and starting yourselves like with an entire green pepper pattern like I have. A lot of work. But what they did is it looked like they sewed it just exactly like I did, but then they actually put a zigzag on the seam. Now I don't know, I've never done it before. I might try it for a small little strip and see how it works. But I believe all that's going to do is keep the material from fraying inside, which is kind of a big deal. You know, you don't want that catching because the hood's going to be down quite a bit of the time. Alright, so I did the zigzag on the outside edge. I've never done that before. I know you do that for strength. Primarily, I think in this case I'm going to be using it to try to keep the unraveling down. I did not do any zigzagging when I put the canvas anorak together. That's like a 6-ounce canvas that I used, and I am getting unraveling along the edges of that. You know, it's not that big a deal. You know, it's homemade, so I don't care if I make a mistake here or there and it actually looks homemade. But you also don't want to be out there continually trying to maintain your gear in the field. So I'm happy with the hood. Right now I'm going to roll the edge and put a hem along the edge to keep, you know, to give the end of it a finished look. So we can see as I'm pinning this hem, as I'm getting into the radius of the hood where it's actually going to come around my face, it's all bunching up. So I'm going to make small little slices with the scissors to help me hit that radius. Hopefully that'll lay down for me. Okay, I've got the machine reset to straight stitching. I'm going to run about half of this, so I'll get up to around the top of the hood and I'll be able to pull my pins, leave it in the machine with the needle down, and try to repin it. Now whenever I've got to make a turn, I'm leaving the needle in the cloth. I lift the foot that keeps tension on the fabric. That lets me spin it around a little bit. But as long as I've got that needle in there, I don't have to start and restop like I had to do earlier.
It seems I hear the angels around the throne so grand. They're shouting by Hosanna when we reach the throne. When we reach that city, our race will earthly done. We'll shout loud Hosanna. Well, now we can over in the glory land to sing God's praise and His glory shine. Over in the glory land.
Alright, I'm happy with that. That looks nice. So this gives me good coverage. Finished up pretty well. Now before I secure it to the watch coat, this is actually a size large. On the website it says they all run real big. If you wear an extra large, order a large. So I called, talked to the lady, ordered a large, and it does fit. However, when I'm wearing my wool anorak and really bundled up, it's kind of tight around the shoulders. So rather than make the commitment and sew it to the large, I went ahead and ordered an extra large. When that comes in, that should be in tomorrow. I'll decide which of the two I want to go with. I'm probably going to go with the roomier size unless it's ridiculously large. Then I'll secure the hood to that one, and then probably trade off the large. The large is plenty big enough size-wise. Just for me, it got kind of small in the shoulders. There gets to be a certain point of the year where you no longer should be worrying about rain gear, but I still wear my wool anorak. Even into the low 50s, the 40s, the high 30s. I still usually have that on when I'm in the woods. And that is exactly when you got to worry about hypothermia. You're going to have wet snow, sleet, freezing rain. All the way down below 32, obviously. So that's something I wanted to be prepared for and not tied in to a certain size where I couldn't wear my wool anorak. So I decided to try the upgrade. I'll get back with you on how that works, and then I'll do a couple of fit tests from large to small on my size, my frame, so that you can keep that in mind when you're ordering. But the hood came out pretty good. I'm going to mock it up on this size just so I kind of know what I'm dealing with. And then when the next one comes in and I decide which one I'm going to go with, I'll film actually fitting the hood to the coat. I got the extra large watch coat in the mail yesterday, so now it's time to attach the hood to the coat itself. Now here I've got it mocked up and pinned into place. That's a fairly straightforward project. The pattern that I used, the hood itself is about a ½ inch too long. So the canvas coat that I've got, the collar comes around further. What I was able to do is I just folded the edges over. So I'm going to have like a ½ inch margin that's going to be folded over. It's going to make it a little thicker around the sides. I think that'll work out okay. This is the large, and you can see here's the collar. So I took, the collar stands about a ½ inch. So I folded the coat in half to find dead center in the back. And then I have like a marking pen, like a white chalk marking pen. So I marked center, and I did the same to the hood, folded in half, found center. Then I matched my two ends and just worked out and followed the seam of the collar. So I like the way it's laying. I'm going to set the machine up. I believe we'll probably put maybe a single line stitch for now and then maybe a zigzag on top of it. And the fabric does seem to be fighting me trying to get it to feed especially. There are probably easier projects to start on. Well, what fun would that be? So the hood's attached. You can see when I fold this down, I've got quite a bit of this original factory collar sticking up. So that actually works out kind of well. I am going to go over it again. I'm going to give it a zigzag stitch. And I'm going to put the outside of the foot on my last stitch line, so that's going to move the zigzag up a little bit, so I'm going to have less collar, but I'm going to have a little more purchase on the collar itself. So I think it's going to hold a little better. Alright, it's all trimmed up. Let's see how it looks. So here's the finished product. This is the TentSmiths Oilskin Watch Coat with an added hood. This is TentSmith oilcloth fabric that I bought extra. You know, I used a pattern from a green pepper anorak, canvas anorak that I had previously sewed. Didn't quite fit exactly. I had to modify it. So if you don't have that exact pattern, I wouldn't really sweat it. You can see earlier in the video, it's almost like a three-piece arrangement. And one of those pieces is a mirror. So if you get the center maybe about 4 to 5 inches wide for the hood, then once you have your right side, left side of the face, you know, that's basically all I had. But that was my one issue with the watch coat, was that it did not have a hood. You know, I do wear a wide brim hat if I know it's raining, but I don't want to be tied to it. I don't want to have that hat where I'm wet. And I contacted TentSmiths about making a custom one for me, and they didn't do that. So I can take care of it myself. So this open style watch coat, again, you close it with either a rope belt or a ring belt or whatever kind of outer belt you happen to be using. Presto, here it is. I can see I'm missing a thread already. Missed a thread to be cut. Plenty big enough hood, folds back completely out of the way. Now I don't have a drawstring of any type on here, so I do have a place to put one. But I'm going to go without it for now and see how that works. Now this is the XL. Okay, I'm about 6 foot tall, maybe 215 pounds. I had the large. The large did fit, but when I go with my wool anorak, you know, in a wool sweater and heavy duty weather or heavy duty clothes for this time of year, I was really tight in the sleeves. And that's the one thing about this, is it's not real roomy in the shoulders, even the XL. Now I'm not real fond of these bellowed out sleeves. I don't know if I'm going to put a stitch in that, try to close these up a little bit, or cuff them. I think I'm going to give it a go like it is, see how annoying it is, and then just modify it either in the field or just make plans. I'm going to try the large on just so you kind of get an idea for yourself about what size to order. But again, XL oilskin watch cloth with the added hood. So this is very adaptable to whatever you're wearing layer wise. This is very, very warm garment. You know, there's no body heat escaping this thing. So it's kind of important to be able to vent it like that. This is the large oilskin watch coat. This is unmodified. And I've just got a fleece on right now, a t-shirt and a fleece. And this fits fine. Definitely more form-fitting. I've had this a couple months. Wore it a few times, not a lot. Carried it more than I wore it actually. I was lucky enough to not get rained on most of the time. But you can see it definitely fits a lot better, more form-fitting, but I don't have the shoulder space. You know, I can get my fist between my armpit and the bottom of this coat, but that's it. It's a little tight even right now. Still has these bellowed sleeves. But the hood is the key. I really like the hood. That was a modification I couldn't believe TentSmiths didn't make, but you know, they're busy. And I can understand them not wanting to modify a traditional garment like this. Personally, I don't care, tradition or not. I just wanted a durable, versatile garment to wear in the woods. And for me, a hood is a critical element to that. So until next time, this is Jamie Boggs with Burning River Bushcraft. See you soon.